Hey people, welcome back to another episode of the Jagged Edge. This is Ian here along with Chris, but not only Chris, also a special guest today. We've got Isaac here with us.
It's a pleasure to be here, thank you.
Sup? I'm pretty sure at this point I am the only person who did not like The Punisher at this point.
I haven't seen it yet, so I have no opinion.
Well, I'm sure you'll like it. Everyone seems to, except for me.
You know,
I saw the short film version, and I was extremely impressed. So if it's
that's right.
Dirty Laundry?
I showed you. Yeah, I showed him that one a couple years back. But we're talking about obviously the Netflix show that just released. I ripped it apart, and I take nothing back. But apparently I stand alone on that hill. But that's all right. I'll do that.
It's, the one thing that I'm actually surprised, just in retrospect now, just looking through some of the late reviews to that series, is that very point of continuity, of keeping within Marvel Universe, of Marvel references, that really seems to have been lost. Most reviews just focus around the bumpy subject matter. That's addressed, and they focus on the war and the PTSD and everything else and how heavy that is, and they just said, hey, it's fine about the comic stuff, leave that out. I don't know.
That's dumb.
That's funny that you bring that up, because I was also reading reviews about it, and a lot of veterans, and especially firefighters and police officers, they were among the top ranked who said they would recommend it to a friend versus other work, which I thought was super interesting, and they just said they could relate a lot to the PTSD and other themes that were explored throughout the show.
Huh.
Oh no, agreed. And like I said in the review that we did of it, they handled that topic well, but they forgot that this is a character from Marvel.
Fair enough.
He doesn't go and play football with kids.
and please don't invite him over for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just want to comment on that. I stand alone on that hill, which is fine. I'll own that hill. I'll sit there by myself and eat a sandwich. I take nothing back.
Good stuff. We've got a pretty fairly packed show. We've
yes,
a lot of it is looking at Black Friday game and console sales. Also, some of the big trailers we've had to rock things and shake the boat recently, and of course, what we're looking at with the DCEU and the MCU.
Yep.
Man, there's a whole lot. I think with games, I know, Chris, you pointed out a review from IGN. There's some stuff with Nintendo Switch, so I just want to go way back, right up to the top of this chart. PlayStation's Black Friday. What's the deal?
Oh yeah, no, they had record numbers. We saw some great numbers when it comes to gaming this last Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Sony had the best sales for their PlayStations than they have in the 23 years they've been around.
Sick.
Yeah, you gotta like that. Well, you gotta like that if you're Sony. I suppose other people may not like that, but they've got to be pretty happy.
Right on. Now, you mentioned PlayStations? Is that not as in current PS4s, or was anything up for anything previous gen? Just because it's bargain, but I'm assuming PS4.
No, yeah, it's the PS4, PS4 Pro.
Cool. Yeah,
I bet they dropped the price on the PS4 down to $199 for Black Friday, so I'm guessing that's the main contributor.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome.
Makes sense.
And then with things entering on PSN now, backwards compatibility was a real worry, for myself included, going into the PS4 generation, especially when things started off. But the amount of stuff you got access to from libraries now, and there's a lot of this for Xbox as well. But I'm not feeling that gap as much. Honestly, I can get most of the same things that I was doing on PS3 anyway. And by this late in the game, this late in the generation, I think they made a pretty good bridge. So good on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit off topic, but what do you see PS5 looking like then? Should they come out with it in the next 5 years?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. You want to take that first, Ian?
Yeah, man. Well, it's really looking at, I think, where Sony go with their model. as far as how grandiose they are. I think entering the game or where they want to set. When PS3, it takes me back when PS3 first came out. They were riding the tailwinds of PS1, PS2, and really just felt confident in walking in with a $600 price tag. They eventually managed to catch things up to make that a console worth picking up, but definitely not off the bat. My hope is that they stick to the ground, keep focused on solid game experience, not trying all this weird DRM content and all this crazy ownership rights and everything else. Sony still does have a really solid following. However, I think the next release is going to be a little odd just because of how PC is, again, continued to reinterject itself into the talk. As the whole doubling of power, console to console. This is something we watched in the 8-bit days, the 16-bit to 32-bit. That was a real war. Sega was still slugging it out when Nintendo was still there. These days, though, we're crossing those bounds so much. We're not just looking at a console as an individual entity. You're comparing things to graphics cards. The GTX 1080 Founders, the Titan, the Pascal rendering engines, compared to the power that we have on consoles, which is really starting to mirror. As you look at specs, a lot of what the PC market is doing, and of course, so many people put two and two together and just say, "Hey, PC's immortal. I'm just going to keep upgrading there." Graphically, it feels like we're pushing towards we pushed a crazy threshold at this point. It's hard to imagine that being the big wow factor. I really think they'd have to ride their games.
Yeah, I think the only way you can really push it further is just the whole virtual reality experience. And I don't know if that's something they'll implement more on PS games. Maybe.
VR has been pushed so hard. Chris and I talked about that a lot. Here in the show, and it's just not something that's just fully bit yet. It's not fully taken on. It hasn't fully taken hold. I'm still skeptical of. If I can talk, skeptical of it actually taking hold. To be honest,
no, it's not. It's a gimmick.
Yeah,
it's a gimmick.
There's something. I'm telling you. Give me a well thought out game with a solid story. You put a disc in my hands, or maybe some good DLC behind that. That's a good game. I don't need the rest of the augmentation behind it. No.
Especially with the faster paced world that we live in, since VR was originally attempted a couple decades ago, and the fact that people's phones will constantly drag them away from whatever they're doing. No one wants to have to pause their game and take off the headset, drop both the controllers and whatever the hell they have to do with. Virtual reality is cool, but it's a gimmick. It's definitely not the future of gaming.
It was like Blu-ray is to movies, when they tried to push the whole Blu-ray, making a new experience. It's kind of what I feel like VR does for gaming.
Well, for me to answer your question, Isaac, I've got to go through the rest of the list here, at least as far as the consoles go, and then I can take a crack at that topic. So let's go on with the rest of that. Nintendo Switch. Now Ian is as good a time as any for me to say this. Because okay. I've been saying that eventually it looks like I'm going to have to. Now I do that with a little bit of an asterisk, but I'll do it nonetheless. Nintendo Switch was the number one selling item for Black Friday, period.
It is.
That's not for games. That's not for consoles. That's electronics. That's everything.
Wow.
Nothing sold more than the Nintendo Switch on Friday. Wow. Not this last Friday, but Friday before. Number one in everything. They're now, initially, even before they'd put out the Nintendo Switch at the beginning of the year, they were hoping for an estimate of 10 million games sold. They're now saying 12 million before around the new year. By that time, I thought this machine was going to be a huge, smelly piece of shit. I still don't like it. I still don't know what it is, to be honest with you. But no, that's not true. Because actually, the identification. This is where my asterisk goes in this. The identification for the Switch, I think, more than anything, was decided by the people who have been using it, especially when it first came out. This is when I hear people talking about the Switch, I hear them predominantly talking about it being a mobile system, which I don't hear. I hear that a lot more now. Obviously you can plug into your TV, but that seems more like the gimmick.
Right.
So that being said, as far as this thing being a mobile device, in the evolution of Nintendo's other mobile devices, then this makes complete sense. Still, I think it's a bit pricier than what your next evolution to Game Boy should be, but whatever, people are buying it.
Yeah,
that's huge. For that thing to plus they didn't even drop the price for Black Friday.
wow.
Yeah, it was the same price. But
That's crazy. That's crazy. Now, so to get to the last part, looking at Microsoft. Microsoft, they didn't have a good weekend. They won't even put out numbers. They will not even put out numbers. All they, in a conference call, they just touted how awesome the new Xbox One X is as far as power, and how they're hoping in the future to bridge the gap between consoles, PCs, and mobile devices. And that's why I have to touch on that. Because I think ultimately what happens for the next generation of gaming all depends on what Microsoft tries to do. Just because of the amount of real estate that they have their hands in.
Right.
Because it's not just the Xbox. It is also PC. And it is also Microsoft. So that matters. And that statement that they made about how they want to bridge that gap, that tells me that they're going to try to do something that's either going to scare the crap out of Sony, or they're just going to laugh at it and continue on their way. But if it's the first one, then that's going to dictate everything.
Yeah. And looking at that and seizing on it, this highlights one of the very things we were talking about a second ago. You mentioned Microsoft and Xbox. We were still talking about the amazing power of the new one that's just released, the specs it pushes, the specs. That's something that's slowly fading in the background more and more today. And again, I'm a firm believer you cannot sell a console off of that alone these days, because the bar has raised so much for what we generally expect from graphics.
The Switch is a perfect example of that. This thing is far inferior.
It is.
Yeah.
And while there's like a quote unquote a bar just where you generally expect from HD gaming now, it's not everything. There's definitely still such a thing as base loyalty. IPs are still really strong. And despite how paranoid Nintendo's been about those, they've kept the reins on those very tight. The lockdown in Metroid, the lockdown in Star Fox, the lockdown in the Mario series, the list goes on, and they've continued to, innovate and push those. So, there's still a couple ways to approach the equation at this point, and I think the more big, fat, heavy-handed, big corporate bridges you try to make between this stuff, I think the more you kind of miss that gap, and the more you miss what gamers are after. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
So yeah, Isaac, to answer your question, how do I think the next gen consoles are going to look like? Like I said, I definitely think we'll see it in the next 5 years or whatever it is. But Microsoft is attempting. I think they've given up on this current gen. They got their asses handed to them, as well they should have. And I think what they're going to try to do now is they're going to try to position themselves to be the trendsetter for the next one. And if they come up with the right idea, they absolutely could, and that will dictate that'll dictate what everyone does, except for Nintendo. Nobody dictates what Nintendo does. Nintendo does whatever the hell it wants. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. They don't really care, because you can't get your hands on the goddamn NES Mini anyways, which I still can't get hold of. I'm still checking. I saw it doing notes for this week's show. I was looking around. It's like there was an article. NES still paying to get a hold of. Like, yes, I haven't noticed a difference. The price has not changed. You go to Amazon, it's $250.
That's insane,
man.
Yeah. So yeah. So I can't say how it'll come out. If Microsoft can't do anything groundbreaking, then I don't suspect the next gen systems are going to be any different, except for more power. I think we'll see more of the same.
Yeah.
But just the real estate that Microsoft has in the gaming world, what they do have a reach to get, does give them the ability to possibly be a threat to how the status quo is right now.
Right. Fair enough.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That being said, would You think PS5 would be an auto buy for you, Chris, or would you have to stand back and wait a bit to see exactly what came about?
You know, well, I still don't see a reason to get an Xbox. If all the games for Xbox come on a PC, why do I get one?
Right.
That's true.
So yes.
Cool.
Unless somehow all my favorite games are coming out, all my PS exclusives are coming out for the PC, then yeah. Because that's what dictates it for me, is all the exclusive games that they have. That's why I've got a PlayStation.
There you go. Same here. That's the really the number one thing I look at. You know, it's what brought me into console gaming for as long as I can remember. It was always the exclusives. Back in the day, you know, the line was drawn more exclusively for, you know, Sonic versus Mario and everything else, and it was tough for me. I was a big Sonic fan, but I loved a lot of the games of Super Nintendo too. But even though you don't have those exact kind of rivalries now, mascots are just sort of a thing of the past. Yeah, it's the games, man. It's what the draw. Me owning this system, what's that going to mean for me down the road when it comes out to awesome releases? And for the last couple of generations, that's been aligned with Sony. So, cool.
I think this is the part where we move on.
Hey, we got some dead air here. What's going on?
I think this. See, this is the part.
No, I will edit all of this.
No, this is the part where there's like we're just taking turns clearing the floor. I think it's like, wait, clear the floor. Wait, he might. No, wait, he might. But no, it's fine. We can just keep.
I was double checking on some information for our next topic here. The list that we have coming up, because I just wanted to make sure y'all know something.
Yeah. Looking at that, now you did mention this list. This was according to IGN. It was listed the top 10 best-selling games in Blu-ray movies. Starting with games, the top 10.
So this is Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Right.
So
good context to base it. Coming in at number 10, and I still have not played. I don't own this one yet. I really didn't delve much into this series after the first. That's Assassin's Creed Origins. Did either of you play this one? Pick it up at any point, or?
Don't care.
I did not. No, I quit playing after I got the Black Flag, and then I did Rogue, and then I think they stopped making stuff for PS3.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they have. They
stopped playing. And I heard the last couple were kind of bombed anyway, so I was just kind of sitting back and kind of seeing what other people said.
Yeah, I've heard good things, but I have decided to decline on the Assassin's Creed games. Just other things.
Coming in at number 9.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying at 9 that another thing I've checked out of too, Call of Duty, World War II.
I kind of want to play that one because I've heard a lot of really good things just from a story side, and I'm always a sucker for good story.
Right.
So I might still check this one out, but personally.
Cool. Yeah, Call of Duty. That's a big pass for me. My only exposure has been a couple of large scale multiplayer with these from some buddies back in the Midwest, but that's all I got on that. On number 8, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I know. Same here. You know, I have a couple of close friends who are Zelda addicts. Say, you know, they pick up everything. You know, and since you know the 64 titles and Majora's Mask and everything else, you gotta play it. You gotta play it. I got a healthy respect for Zelda. I'll give it. I always give a salute to Link, but I'm not into the games. Oh well.
Man.
Coming in at number 7, that's Destiny 2. A little piece of info about this. I played Destiny 1. I didn't end up actually sticking with it. But Destiny 2, it's been off to its own start. In fact, it's got its first expansion coming out really soon here. In fact, this week.
Yeah, that's really quick. This just came out in September.
It did. This really recent release, expansion right in the heels of it. It's coming out December 5th. That's called Curse of Cyrus. I believe this is the last weekend if you're playing and you're actually trying to farm up some clan XP. It's your last chance to do that before everything goes over and the season changes. So go for it. But no, I've heard some good things from friends playing it, people enjoying it, saying what this has topped over the first one, bringing lobbies to better standing. But yeah, another one that I really don't follow closely.
You're going really slow on this list.
I am. I mean, I can do fast forward. 6, South Park. 5, Prey. 4, Dishonored. Evil Within. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. And number 1, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus.
Boom! There you go. All right, now let's talk about it.
That's good.
Okay, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. We were talking a little bit about before the show. Are either of you guys playing that?
I'm not playing that one in particular, no.
Because it won't come out on your Commodore 64, right?
Oh, man.
I mean, I've heard about these games. Some of these were like, maybe I'll get it. I don't own any of these games.
Right.
I might still check out Wolfenstein 2 because I heard a lot of good things about the first one, and so I might check it.
Yeah. From everything,
I'm sure, Ian, you're going to play Wolfenstein 2 at some point, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. We were talking about this, especially the stuff that's out over Steam. When I think Wolfenstein I'm put back in the mind frame of Mecha Hitler with chain guns, and I loved this game. It's what I played before Doom. One of the earliest PC experiences that I remember, and I've been sort of keeping a loose eye on developments from far in this one. In fact, I think this was the same one about 4 or 5 shows, like 5 or 6 shows ago. That had that scene with BJ coming out of the hospital in the wheelchair and just gunning down Nazis doing his thing. So still awesome.
All right, can I go on my rant?
I actually did play Evil Within with Jason, and that it was interesting. It was kind of a hard storyline for myself personally to follow, but it was definitely a good horror game if that's kind of up your alley.
Right on.
I'm going to go on my rant now.
Hit it.
Okay, so just before that, a few games that just missed the list for top 10 for Black Friday, Cyber Monday: Uncharted 4, Injustice 2, Dishonored. What is that? Death of the Outsider. I don't even know what that is. And Bloodborne. Well, you guys are looking at the notes, but I'll ask it rhetorically. You know what's missing from this list? Do you know what's missing from this? Battlefront 2 is missing from this list. That is unreal. The power of nerds is just flexing all over this whole holiday season, and the biggest gaming company in the world just flexing on them. Holy shit. I figured it's going to be in. When I was putting this together, I'm like, it's going to be in. It'll be lower. They'll be pissed because it wasn't in the top 5, but it'll probably be sitting around 8 or 9. No, it doesn't even make the top 10. Isaac, how much do you know about Battlefront 2 and the controversy around this?
I mean, I know quite a bit. I've heard it from firsthand, and then I've seen how much it's going to cost to unlock everything. And I have a feeling that's why it scared so many people away from actually buying it, is they just didn't feel like showing out that much money.
And it's just, I mean, I saw some reports this week that EA's stock, they lost $3 billion over this.
And they're still not going to fix it. They said they're going to stand.
Well, not only that, they're doubling down because they're coming out with a loot box system for their new UFC game.
Oh my God.
And that's the only point where I give them props for sticking to their guns, because that's some balls right there. But I mean, it's not even on here. There's a Star Wars movie coming out in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Less than 2 weeks.
Brutal.
And that's part of what I was checking, because Assassin's Creed Origins just came out at the end of October. So that's just only a couple weeks before Battlefront did. And that's Assassin's Creed. And the other game we're talking about is a fucking Star Wars game.
That's non-existent.
Speaking of Star Wars, because tying in the games with the movies, did you hear that the actress that plays Rey, she said she's done after Episode 9?
Oh, yeah. It's a bit of a misquote.
So you think she'll come back for more, or you think she's going to be done after 9?
I think if after Episode 9 and after a couple years, they come in with a giant wheelbarrow of Star Wars money, put it at her door, and say, you want to do a spinoff? She's doing a spinoff.
Yep.
That's fair. I can get down with that. So do you think they how do you think they get rid of her character for episode 10, 11, and 12?
Well, it's not even confirmed that there's going to be a 10 and 11 and 12. That is an assumption and a safe one. But that new trilogy that Rian Johnson's going to be working on, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. That's not part of the episodic movies that we've seen. So there's actually nothing, as far as I know, there's nothing planned for her after episode 9, which is why I say, it's okay for her to say that, which again was a bit of a misquote from what I had seen. But it's fine. They'll all come back. You know who said they'd never come back? Harrison Ford.
I was about to say, yeah,
that's true. That's true. And they're doing a Darth Maul prequel story too, as well, as if I'm right, and then a Boba Fett. Is that still going?
No. I think that's fake news.
Because there was talk that they were going to do a Boba Fett, and then that Darth Maul.
Was real. But we're not supposed to know about that. But that was in fact real. We've talked about that on the show before. Yeah. That was an evolution of some other ideas, which then got dropped.
Okay. I was just
that was a real thing.
Sure, my facts are still factual.
But that's, geez, I question about the future of EA. Just as a gaming company as a whole, especially with that whole thing they did with their production company that they killed because they don't want to make single player games anymore.
Right.
But their decision makings on this, and what I definitely think will end up ending at some point, and as soon as possible, as soon as Disney can do something about it, is the relationship between EA and Lucasfilm.
Oh yeah.
Will be severed as soon as they get a chance. When at the end of the day, we talk about this as far as passion projects and what we love and what we don't, and what genres we enjoy. For them, they like to feed that, but it's all about money. Yeah. And your Star Wars game, just before the new Star Wars movie, didn't even make the top 10.
It's rough, man.
That is dropping the ball in ways that I can't elaborate on that anymore.
Well, at least they always will have Madden going for them. They'll have a new one every year for that.
Yeah, and you'll have to buy loot crates to get better.
Have fun with that. It points to why a lot of groups, especially EA, I think, turtle in the Maddens and the constant sequels of the well-run, either the Call of Duties, the different sports games, because they're safe, quote unquote. You establish, you kind of carve out a corner and you camp that corner. That whole risk factor of really getting out and making a AAA title. A lot of groups afraid to do that, and then some of the ones that do, like some of the antics we see with Battlefront, invest in the wrong things for the wrong reason. The system with the loot crates is awkward. It created a problem off the bat, and with this whole doubling down,
Oh, and it is awkward. It's as awkward as you think it would be, too. I hate the fact that I can't focus on anything in there as far as evolution for playing. You can't. It's all random. And the only way you could get any focus for anything is if you focused on buying more cards, buying more crates, opening more boxes, which you can't even do because they cut that off anyways, which is fine. You shouldn't have to do that. But it's all very random and bullshitty.
Yeah. Forget that noise. Well,
all right, so I'll wrap this up.
End of the day, Bethesda clean house. 4 out of the top 10 games, but alas, Battlefront, R.I.P.
Nope, that's disgusting.
It may have found its final battle. Battlefront.
Would have been
let's go through I'm going to go through the Blu-ray movies real quick.
Yeah.
All right, check this out. I'm going to try to read a list. Let's see how this goes. Okay, number 10, Batman v Superman. We'll talk about that at the end. Number 9, Logan. 8, Baby Driver. 7, Harry Potter Complete 8 movie. I thought they only did 7. They did 8?
Apparently.
Does that include the prequel one?
Should.
I think they split the last one in half.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They made 2 movies of the same book.
Yeah. Number 6, John Wick Chapter 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 4, War for the Planet of the Apes. Number 3, Lord of the Rings Trilogy. Number 2, Wonder Woman. Number 1, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Woohoo!
Some of these are a huge surprise, and some of these are just like, yeah, I expected it.
I'm actually going to be, you might be shocked about my biggest surprise. I'm surprised that Baby Driver is in the top 10, just with everything going on with Kevin Spacey right now.
Yeah.
I find that kind of surprising. I'm not going to lie.
Why, it's like I said before the show, I think the only reason Batman v Superman is in there is because it was in the bargain bin. They must have made that really cheap. I thought Logan was going to end up higher. I really did.
Yeah,
same.
I agree. That was a fantastic film. Like, I cried in the theater watching that. And I haven't even watched the X-Men movies. That was a beautiful film.
Yeah.
It's a good one, for sure. So I was not expecting Spider-Man to be number 1. I was expecting it to be in the top 5.
Right.
And I think Millennium, because like all the other Spider-Mans weren't us, but I think they really nailed down that Peter Parker is kind of like the stereotypical guy that we could identify with, and I think they really helped boost those sales.
Yeah.
It's always
and maybe Thor helped out with it too. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like, Tobey Maguire was just older than most of us guys in high school that were watching Spider-Man, and then Andrew Garfield, none of us could really relate because he was like sporty, he was good looking, he was nerd, like he was just everything that no one else could possibly be. But I think they really captured Spider-Man well with him being nerdy and like kind of really awkward, and a lot more people just could relate.
Definitely.
The cool thing about Spider-Man, what they can get away with is we've had the focus in the comics of the different iterations: Ultimate Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. And I think as a result, with the little minor tweaks you've seen, like with each reboot, how we're sort of based closer to one of those, you're sort of allowed to get away with a few things. The one with Andrew Garfield was way closer to Amazing, I believe, with the Gwen Stacy arc and everything like that. Whereas currently, this reminds me a lot more, like where we are in MCU, this reminds me a lot of Ultimate Spider-Man, which is great because that was one of my favorites. So I'm super thrilled about that. I think you're seeing a real gathering together. People are getting hyped up for Avengers, really, condensing everything down. We got Black Panther on the way. It's the time to hone down on this and get ready for next year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so real quick, we talked about this before the show. We have not talked about it yet on the show. Lord of the Rings trilogy being on this list is amazing.
Yeah.
But it was noted on IGN's website that it sold more than 3 times of the Hobbit trilogy. Pow! Take that, Hobbit trilogy.
Amen. Lord of the Rings was so much better, and I didn't enjoy Hobbit films, but I was not like overly impressed. And
I said it now. I said it then. I'll say it again. The Hobbit should have been 2 movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll agree with that statement.
I mean, there was so much built from the external, the rest of the extra lore from Tolkien and everything that there's a point where you're sort of stepping outside of basic source material to really stretch things and fill the rest of a story. And not saying it's all terrible and Crimson Fire and everything, but 2 for the setting of that 2 would have fit well. Save the epic for Lord of the Rings. It's really set, I think, that gold bar standard for your big time medieval trilogy. There you go.
I will say I was pretty impressed though with the third one, how they were able to make a 3-hour movie that was pretty much nothing but fight scenes. So I'll give them some credit for that, but otherwise not much.
There you have it. Cool. Also, John Wick. I did not watch John Wick 2 yet. I actually just saw the first recently, and I did enjoy that. But I think there was a note here that John Wick, Deadpool, and Planet Earth 2 just barely missed the list. So that's where you have it.
Wait, what were your thoughts on the last Planet of the Apes being on there, the War of the Planet of the Apes?
I figured it'd be in the top 10. I didn't think it was going to make the top 5 though.
Yeah, it way higher than expected. That's one I could see maybe at, I don't know, I expected to see that more at 7. Maybe.
Yeah, what really shocked me was that My Little Pony did not end up on this list.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody knows I'm a big old brony.
Yeah,
emoji movie.
there you go. Man, you from now on, I need you to hide that brony tattoo on your arm. I don't want to see it.
Ever.
That's where our movies stand, but we can't talk about these without talking about a massive trailer that dropped this week, bringing a lot of joy to Marvel folks. And just if you've kept up with any of this stuff over the years, this is an unavoidable big deal. That's the Avengers Infinity War trailer. Now, someone actually snapped my attention.
That's right, that dropped.
That thing. Somebody,
God.
somebody
I watched it 10 times today so far.
It's one of those that's worth going over and again because there's some gems in this. Some nice,
some literal
gems.
Yeah, there you go.
You see what I did there? Oh man, we don't have all of it yet, but with what we're seeing, of course, this is the big vision we've been seeing for the MCU shape up over the years, where all of our films converge. Thanos on his quest to fill the Infinity Gauntlet. But just looking at the buzz, this one, there was a pretty good Forbes article talking about there's a social analytics tracker called like Phraseology, but this is a system that started in 2010, just tracking just the general buzz something generates on Twitter, like a given film or whatever else. This trailer, within a 7-hour period, since it went live, generated more of a buzz than any other film since the company started tracking films 7 years ago. In fact, that it had more mentions than 72% of the trailers that came out since 2010. Just putting that in perspective, 1,147,438 mentions in the first 7 hours on Twitter. Captain America's beard generating a lot of attention in and of itself.
Incredible.
Yeah, say what you will about it. This is packed hype, and I think this is going to do nothing but help drive tons of momentum for the last movie to come out right before this, Black Panther. So
yes, well, there was a lot of Black Panther stuff in this trailer too.
A ton. Anyone, we were talking about Wakanda, its significance. In fact, and Chris, you mentioned this, wondering how important this world, or not world rather, how important Wakanda was going to be, considering it really hasn't been much of a factor in the rest of the films. It's not a location where we've been, but this gave us a pretty good hint. It's pretty darn important.
Right.
It's the obviously one of the main battlegrounds for where Thanos' forces get engaged. We've got tons of footage of Captain America, Hulk, a number of the new Avengers there doing battle, and this one's just
a bunch of pictures of Captain America's beard.
Yeah. Oh,
Everybody
man.
loves the beard.
So, looking at this one though, about what we saw, what jumped out.
All right, potential spoilers.
Be warned.
All over on this MFR. I'm all over this one. Okay.
All right.
So
Same.
the big question, and one of the big questions that's been out for a while, is where is the last Infinity Stone?
Right.
So, and the big theory is that the Soul Gem is in Wakanda, which would explain why they're going there. And a lot of people are pointing to that, thinking that is how, and we're going to see it in the Black Panther movie. We've seen it in the trailers, how he communes and speaks to Black Panthers of the past.
Right.
And so that's what a lot of people are leading towards, and that makes a lot of sense. There's other things to target Wakanda as well. It is generally, if you know about Wakanda, then as readers and people who are fans, you know that it is the most technologically advanced city on Earth as far as the MCU goes. So there's multiple reasons, but I think that's going to be the big one. So besides, I wanted to get that out of the way because that's important. I think that's where the movie's going to end, and it's going to, for those of us who know what the Infinity Gauntlet is and what Thanos does, we've been saying for years, don't get attached to these people.
Please don't.
Because they're all going to die. They're all going to fall. Now, Isaac, I'm definitely going to want to get your opinion on this because as far as looking at Marvel and DC, you are not, in comparison to the two, you are not a Marvel guy. You are a DC guy. So I'm going to want your opinion at the end of this. Is that a fair thing to say?
I think we kind of talked about it pre-show. Is that personal opinion? I think DC just does villains a lot better than Marvel has, and so I'm excited to see what they do with Thanos. And hopefully they make him a really intriguing kind of villain. Like we talked about, Ultron had a lot of potential, but right now it's been Loki's been the only really solid villain like that, at least in my mind. And compared to DC's been able to continually put out with guys like the Joker or Bane or whatnot. And so I'm excited. Hopefully, he's not just this guy that's going to come up with this overcomplicated plan and destroy, throw something out of the sky and they have to stop it before it hits the earth. Like, hopefully it's something a little bit more.
Well, in Thanos' motives are something that we're still not privy to. I mean,
right.
And have some pretty good ideas, but motives are definitely something that changes when it comes from the comics to the movies. So, okay, so talking about this, well, actually, Ian, do you want me to run down some of these little factoids I've got here, and then we can pick apart the rest of the trailer?
Yeah, go ahead, because the rest of it, there's still some meat and bones to pick through here, but yeah.
All right.
Right down.
Okay, so let's see. All right, something that was definitely missing. I'm sure a lot of people noticed it. Ant-Man, nowhere to be seen.
Right.
The Ant-Man and the...
He was shrunk down in his suit. He's there.
He's there. Okay, well, and I was going to say, Ant-Man and the Wasp is one of two movies that's actually coming out between Avengers 3 and Avengers 4, so that might be why maybe they're not going to enter into this fight yet. Captain Marvel's the other one, which she hasn't been introduced, but I'm sure she's going to be introduced into her solo movie to be introduced into the next Avengers. Let's see. Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige says that Avengers 4 will be a finale for the MCU as far as this being one era that will be ending everything that we've seen for the last 10 years, and then another era starting. This I wanted to explain that because a lot of people are clickbaiting that, saying this is the end of the MCU. It's not.
No,
these are different eras. Everything's still going to be fine, but I want clarification that's right out of his mouth. So, but as far as a lot of our current favorite people are concerned, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Scarlett Johansson, Chris Hemsworth, Jeremy Renner. Did I miss somebody? I don't know. Well, anyways, they're all done. They don't
Yeah.
So does that mean in the new era they're going to recast people as Iron Man, or
it's been brought up? It's been brought up, or maybe they just make cameos.
Yeah,
but
gotcha.
all those people, their contracts are over at that point.
I'm extremely disappointed they got around Black Widow standalone.
Well, just because their current contract's going to end doesn't mean these are all just facts that we have right now. Their contracts are done.
Right.
That being said, I know Robert Downey Jr.'s and Chris Evans have had contracts that have ended in the prior 10 years and have renewed. So, and that might be the case for some of the other ones as well.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Evans talked about not renewing and thus potentially killing off Captain America within this Infinity Wars. But I guess... Again,
well, they were actually, that was for Civil War, which is in the comics something that Captain America does die in.
Right.
So that, yeah, but I think that was Chris Evans' way of saying, hey, I want more money. How about give me some of that? Hey, look, the thing, for most of these guys, not so much Robert Downey Jr., but for some Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth, I mean, to keep that body going,
right,
is work.
A lot. A whole lot.
So I can understand those guys getting a little pissed about it after a while.
Yeah.
And be like, look, if you want to keep me, you want to keep me doing this to my body, we're going to have to talk about this a little bit. Let's have a conversation about it. Okay. Foggy continued by saying there will be two distinct periods, as I was saying, everything before Avengers 4 and everything after. I know I was... hold on. Yep. See, here's the part where I can't read. I know it will not be in ways people are expecting. That's what he says. Something else to note before we get back to the trailer: there has definitely been a lack of announced movies past Avengers 4.
Yeah.
We know we're going to get a Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
We know we're going to get a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and 4. But that's all I've announced, and I want to touch on that at the end. But let's talk about this trailer.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on there?
Oh man, all kinds of good stuff. Now, one thing I'm looking at is the way that some of Thanos' minions might be getting based here. One of the first scenes I'm zoning in on is when Captain America catches the spear that's thrown at him. There's like 1 second or so, if you slow down and take a close look at that. It's also been a lot of rumblings at this. One of Thanos' main henchmen, that's Proxima Midnight. And also the introduction of his Black Order. These were really like his chiefs. And now there's two main scenes. One, in the comics, we always knew he was a really proficient spear handler and everything else. And if you freeze the frame about when you see who's throwing it, he really, really looks like Proxima. Also, when Vision is pinned to the ground, getting the stone pried out of his forehead, that also looks like Proxima Midnight's staff. That's a hallmark weapon that he always carried around with him. So it's really looking like at least they've kept that part of continuity, or they at least kept some of Thanos' closest guard. You know, the first thing I think of is they're almost kind of like these are sort of like Darkseid's closest, like Darkseid's Valkyries basically, but it's Thanos' version of that. So
my understanding, we are going to get a fairly faithful recreation of the Black Order.
Yeah. It's looking like it, and then plus you get those clips of that clash in Wakanda. That's besides the intensity of it. I mean, that whole force that's out there. Those are some of the exact beings that were he deployed back in the comics and everything too. So that looks right on par. It's right faithful with the source material. Awesome. We talked.
So let me ask you real quick.
Yeah.
Before you get too far away from the Vision, that's it. I think that's it for Vision.
I think it is.
That's it.
I think he's done with this. I don't see how you can go much farther, especially a being who's so connected to the stone as he is. I mean,
literally.
I mean, this is what he draws from. It's difficult to imagine the epic scale of this film without Thanos getting a chance to complete this thing. So,
what do you think's going on with that scene with Scarlet Witch and Vision? What do you think's going on there?
Well, we have this sort of domestic romance that got built up a bit in Age of Ultron. You know,
and in the comics, there's a huge romance between these two.
Oh yeah. And you know, the MCU's had its own way of kind of slowly introducing that. And I really think just frame for frame, simple enough. That's the take that MCU is giving us on that relationship. I mean, it obviously sucks because it's like, well, right as that kicks off, probably gonna die, but you see the Vision the character right
outside of the makeup and everything.
Yeah.
All you see is that Infinity Stone in his head. What do you think's going on?
Yeah,
that is the Scarlet Witch using her powers to kind of twist reality and to make him not look like a fucking dumbass.
Oh, shots fired. A couple ways to go with that. You could, I think, that being seen as a projection, or him learning how to a new way to curb his own powers to sort of alter his appearance enough. One thing that makes me think that's not a projection: the gem itself is still kind of like a burning ember, like right below his skin, like that kind of just pointing out like that's the thing that's not supposed to be there. I want to say whatever he did, that seems to be self-generated. I think if it was just a complete mirage, you wouldn't see it at all. So. Could just be me.
What do you think, guys? What do you think's going on there?
You know, honestly, I totally agree with what you're saying about Vision, and I think maybe this is one of their ways that they'll just start getting rid of characters that aren't really as needed anymore. Perhaps is maybe with like the whole losing the stone. Maybe that's how we kind of see his character get phased out, and with the whole Scarlett Johansson and I forgot her name.
Scarlet Witch. Scarlett Johansson's the Black Widow.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I know names better. Maybe that's just how we're going to start seeing people get phased out.
But you will see many people die here.
So so maybe we'll lose a lot of the big names, and that's how they, with their contracts ending up, and that's just how they're going to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was saying, speaking of deaths, I'm thinking that the very first shot we see from this trailer, I have my own theory in that I don't think that's Earth. I think that relates to how Thanos has got a hold of the Power Stone, but I'm going to stop there a minute. You're about to say, Chris?
Oh, I was going to say, did anyone notice that we didn't see Hawkeye?
Yeah, it's true. We didn't.
Nowhere to be seen. Don't like that. That's the guy right there.
Right.
No Hawkeye, but see, now this is weird because when we last left the Avengers from Civil War, they were ripped apart.
Right.
And what was even weirder was that we see Scarlet Witch and Vision together. She was a fugitive.
Right.
But not anymore.
Right.
And you do see Falcon here, and he was a fugitive as well. You see him at some point, but you see him with Captain America. You see that I mean, there's obviously going to be a point where this gets connected. These these characters are going to get connected again, but you don't see Hawkeye anymore.
No.
Maybe he actually retire. But he's supposed to be in the movie, so interesting there. So what are you saying that's not Earth?
Yeah.
What are you saying is getting destroyed?
The very first shot we see is sort of that 45-degree angle, like sort of out of the orbital shot of like a huge like cloudy skyline or whatever else, and it looks like there's like some maybe explosions or whatever going on at the surface. Something interesting here. So we see this connects to something we see at the end.
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, Thanos has got two of the stones. One of them is the one that we see in the very first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the purple one. I believe that is the power gem. That was under the storage of the Nova Corps the last time we left off. And mind you, that planet, Nova Corps, aka Xandar, they've got a history of getting their butts handed to them. It seems like that was the first stop on Thanos' trip. I think he went and cleaned all their clocks and took the gem before making it to Earth. So, yeah, and to be honest, that would be a pretty... I'm looking at how Thor Ragnarok started because that was pretty grand despite all the jokes and everything. But if this kicks off with the near destruction of Xandar or just seeing Thanos go and mop up Nova Corps, that's one way to kind of to set the seriousness and scale of this guy. And that could be a good way to start framing all this. So we'll see.
Yeah. No, that's probably true. That being said, I do think a lot of that destruction we see in this trailer is the destruction of New York.
Fair.
I do think that the whole town's going to get destroyed. I think Hulk gets sent back by Thanos. He gets sent back to Earth intentionally as a way to warn them that he's coming.
Right.
Which sucks because I mean, at the end of the Thor Ragnarok review that we did, we're gonna miss that Thanos Hulk fight. We're not gonna see it. Well, maybe we will see it, but it certainly seems like we're gonna miss it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely gonna be some stuff that happens off camera, or at least we think so far. Obviously, with Thor appearing on the Guardians of the Galaxy ship, there's been some kind of huge peril that's happened to his own. We see a clip of Loki with the Tesseract. I think Thanos gets a hold of that. Likely Loki probably is trying to make it...
He looks like he gives it to him.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It looks like he's trying to go ahead and cut a deal that probably doesn't go the best for him. So something happened to Thor and his people and the ship they were on at the end of Thor Ragnarok. Can't be good. Thor looks to be separated from everybody, and not a good way to start stacking things up.
And that being said, I don't think that that's Iron Man in the Hulkbuster armor. I actually think that's Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster armor.
Interesting take.
In an attempt to try to do his normal Hulk things without having to turn into the Hulk, which is something that he's trying not to do.
Right. Point taken.
Here's a question for you. So we saw in Avengers 2, Tony Stark getting all these visions about Thanos coming. How much of that do you think is going to tie into this film?
Well, You're going through a completely different set of writers at this point with them. I mean, Joss Whedon put that in there. He was directed to put that in there. There's a couple other mentions about the upcoming Avenger movies as well. That was done as some kind of prelude to what was going to happen, but whether that was directly connected to everything else that we're going to be seeing, I think that's left to interpretation right now.
It is, especially if you look. If I recall, what he was seeing it was still, as well as a reaction from the PTSD he gained from the events in New York. That was that was the original alien force that was invading during Avengers. So I think, at least this is the way I took it. I took that scene as less of a premonition than more of him, Stark rather, knowing that there are still huge external threats out there, but this is his best way to relate to that, to visualize it. Like, he freaks out when he thinks about that black hole and the stuff that he saw. He can't get that out of his head. So I saw that as something more, internal on his part.
Gotcha.
And continuing on what I was saying, I mean, in this trailer, you do actually see Bruce Banner standing next to part of the Hulkbuster armor.
Yep.
It looks like it's in the similar area, which does look to be Wakanda. Let's see. Going back to the destruction of New York, as much as I don't like it, I do think we are going to lose Spider-Man early on.
No, say it ain't so.
What?
I think that's all going to happen in the first act. It has less to do with Spider-Man, more to do with Iron Man. We're going to lose Spider-Man. We're going to lose Happy. We're going to lose Pepper Potts. They're all going to get killed along with the city of New York in the first act. It's going to be the driving force for Tony Stark to do whatever he's going to do and fail, because that's what he usually does. But I don't think we're going to see a live Spider-Man in this movie or the next one.
All right. That would really, it'd be really interesting. It would make sense for them, movie-wise, to do this, to kind of take a departure, especially if you look at Spider-Man's role in the original Infinity War in the comics. He was pretty important, especially towards the end. But man, that'd be a twist. That would burn my eyes, because I love Spidey, but it's a good prediction.
No, I agree. I've had to make. I'm about 100. I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to go.
So here's a question: do they destroy everything, and then the new era is a different timeline?
No. The thing. How much do you know about the Infinity Gauntlet?
I know little.
Okay. The thing, there's the 6 gems, but basically, if you have the Infinity Gauntlet, you can do whatever you want. And in the comics, one of the things that to prove this is that with a snap of the finger, when Thanos first gets it, he destroys half of the species in the universe. I'm not going to go into details of all why that happens. They may do it here. So, but you can do whatever you want. So, all this destruction, all these people dying, with the Infinity Gauntlet, you can just put it all back.
Yep.
Oh, so he's just kind of like going complex here.
Yeah, you can just put it all back. You can just fix everything, so they can destroy whatever they want to destroy here. They can kill whoever they want to kill. They can all come back. That's the whole thing. The Infinity Gauntlet gives you, well, as it says, infinite control and power of everything and anything, period, in the universe.
There you go. And bear in mind, real quick, we've seen some flashes of this in the Doctor Strange movie, with what he pulled with the time gem against Dormammu.
Right.
The whole point, Dormammu was basically erasing everything, and Strange put him in a loop so that couldn't break until he agreed to make a bargain and basically leave. And afterwards, just wound everything back, and everybody who died, you're good. You're not dead anymore. Anything that was destroyed, no, you're good. You're not destroyed anymore. And done.
Yeah, I think that big circular thingy that you see in the air, here in the trailer, that's obviously has something to do with Thanos showing up, or maybe not even Thanos himself, but the Black Order, and I think Spider-Man's one of the first ones on the scene.
Yep.
And I think Thanos takes him out right quick.
I'll tell you what. One thing that does play into your theory, I will hold hope against hope for my favorite. But one thing that does play into your theory, it is not a good sign if you get grabbed by Thanos that early on.
Oh yeah, and he's about to punch his head right off.
Yeah, that ain't good. That ain't good.
You almost see it right there.
Yeah.
But I think it'll make a lot of sense. As much as I don't like that myself, I think it'll make a lot of sense, especially because we've been told one of the few movies that have been announced for after Avengers 4 in this new era, the next one to happen after, I think, about 3 or 4 months after Spider-Man 2, and we've been told that it takes place literally minutes after the end of Avengers 4. Right. So he comes back.
Right.
Or maybe he's not killed at all.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure he gets killed.
Love it.
Pretty sure he's dead.
It's going to be a wild year, that's for sure.
Can't wait.
Yes. Let's see, what else is there to note? It's kind of cool to see Tony Stark with and Bruce Banner with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially it looks like he's got another type of portable, armor with him. And it's cool. We've seen Stark develop this tech, all throughout these films, but him being able to summon his suit is just going to be something pretty instantaneous. And it's cool now. Just assume that he pretty much always has a suit on him at all times. I love that. So that's going to be cool. And speaking of Stark,
of course, you see Thor at the end with the Guardians of the Galaxy. That's pretty awesome. We knew that was going to happen, though. There's been talks about that since E3.
Right. Love it.
Isaac, what stood out for you the most for this trailer?
I think like the giant large scale battle. In the desert. I was like, I think it's cool because usually we've been seeing a lot of these huge battles inside New York City or these cities, and just kind of got to the point like, who would even live in a city at this point?
That's true.
But so I think it's kind of cool they're taking it outside the city, and it's kind of like the old school medieval fights, and I think that'll be really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Cool. What about you, Ian? What stuck out for you the most?
Man. There's so much win here. It's hard to pin down one thing, but for me, it was giving us a direct number and count of how many Infinity Stones Thanos has at the moment. I like that in a lot of ways. It shows us part of the ground that has been covered, what he will have by the time he runs into Stark and the others, what he doesn't have yet. Most of all, telling us that there's still room to, if not within this film, in the next film, to complete that gauntlet. But just those couple little hints of the gems that he has tells us so much, and it sends all of the fans' minds spinning, thinking about how it could have happened, exactly how he could have done it. I love it. That jumped out to me because I thought that it was just full of giveaways.
I think for different reasons, but for the same scene when he's there and he clinches the fist with the Infinity Gauntlet, and you do see the 2 gems in there. But it is just an awesome shot, especially if you're a Marvel fan and you know what it means.
Yep.
No more foreshadowing. No more little tidbits. There he is. There's Thanos on Earth with the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's got some gems, and he's gonna wreck some shit.
Yep.
It's just an impressive shot.
It is.
Even if he doesn't have his helmet on and he looks like purple Homer Simpson.
There's been some funny Twitter posts about that. They had a Hank Hill version of Thanos, like a Shrek version of Thanos, all kinds of good ones. So
I cannot wait to see if he's going to do the same thing in the comic when he gets all of them.
Same.
Because he will get all of them.
Oh yeah. You couldn't have a compelling film, and I think build everything to this point without him finishing that gauntlet. It's got to happen. So.
Who do you think they'll end up? I mean, obviously this has to get turned around. Now, obviously the good guy win.
Right.
How do you think that happens? Do you think somebody else will get their hands on the gauntlet? Do you think somebody else will wear the Infinity Gauntlet once it's all completed?
Some of this could, I think, fall back to some of even the animated shorts we've seen. I know there was one series where while Stark was working on a countermeasure to the Infinity Gems themselves, or to help sort of at least put the gauntlet in a state long enough to where you could counter it with the same frequency of something else that's like sort of even semi-match the gems. Some of this is going to depend on how much of a novice or non-novice is Thanos is with using this. In some of the animated shorts, he didn't necessarily think long-term before he exercised a gem or used it. So he was forced into like certain decisions because he did something with the time gem. Now he's sort of stuck in this weird limbo unless he wants to reverse things back to where they were, and then he can kind of get his restart button. A lot's going to depend on that. But as to the who, as to the how, as to the why, I don't think this will be a technological counter. Knowing Thanos, he gets ahead of himself sometimes, a little too much grandeur, a little too much grandiose, and he will overlook some details. I think it's going to be a failing of his own, and as a result of that, either someone else gets a hold of the gauntlet, manages to find a way to put him away and seal that. I think it'll be his own failing.
As long as they don't go to the whoever is worthy can start wielding it. Like, as long as they stay away from that, I'll be happy.
Oh, you mean like Thor's hammer?
Yeah, like if Captain America ends up putting the gauntlet on, or like Vision, then I'm checking out.
Well, I actually see that's it's funny you say that. I actually think Captain America is going to get the gauntlet, and he's the one that's going to set everything right. The thing about the gauntlet and why it's so dangerous is not just how powerful it is, but because it's so powerful, what it does to the person who has it.
Right.
Because they've done what ifs in the comics where other people have gotten the gauntlet, and it's just the horrible things that they do. Once you have the power of everything and anything, it's in what you would do with that. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to take a guy like Captain America to end up having it, not because of worthiness, but because someone's going to have to set it right.
Right. And if anyone could do it, it's him. I like it.
See,
but apparently Isaac thinks that's total cheese.
It's just overdone. It's just overdone, Now,
in the case of what you're talking about with Thor and what do you pronounce it, Mjolnir? That's something that goes back to the 60s. So that's only certain people have been able to weld the hammer, and after 50 years, it's been around a bit more than it should be. It's looking a little bit like a girl down at the docks, but generally speaking, only a handful of people are supposed to. Really, Odin and Thor are the only people that really should ever have held that hammer. Right. That being said, a few others have, but yeah, that's not the same thing. It's not. It doesn't call to someone or not work for somebody because you're not worthy.
Yeah, I know. Right. It's just I hope that's not like you were saying, becoming absolutely corrupt, and only like Vision or Captain America are the only ones that aren't corrupt because they're. I don't know. I just think it's over.
Despite my foul mouth, I tend to think I'm a fairly moral person, but if I ever got an Infinity Gauntlet, I knew I'd wreck everything. I probably wouldn't have meant to, but probably
I want to see what this does, and then next thing you know, there goes, I don't know.
So yeah, I think at the end of it, and it's fine. You can say it with these movies; they're entertaining enough for what they bring to you. But these movies always do have a happy ending, and so while I think Avengers 3 will be the first that doesn't, because it's supposed to go right into Avengers 4. Right. Avengers 4 will have a happy ending. I'm pretty sure it's going to involve Captain America getting his hand on that gauntlet and fixing things.
Fair enough.
Lame. It's so lame. It's so overdone. And that and that actually might lead us into our next topic, is I think that's one thing that DC is doing better.
Hey, all right.
Go for it.
What do you think of that, Ian? It's a pretty good segue?
Yeah, I think it is. I've been now here's the rest of the meat and cheese I've been waiting to chew on here. This goes right into it. Isaac, you're saying that DC's handling of villains is often a little smoother than Marvel. They've made some better headway in a few ways. With where the DCEU sits right now, what do you think? Is this how would you fix it, or how would you cast this? How do you think this is going to fall out from here on out?
So I do think DC has had a lot of struggles with these films, and I'll be the first one to say that. I think they really nailed it with Wonder Woman. I think that was one of the best superhero films I've ever seen, actually. Mm-hmm. Easily top 5. Just the way they handled it, tone, everything. I think what DC does better than Marvel is it doesn't always necessarily have to have a happy ending, and for me that's more real to life, something I can relate to. And I think their villains have just been a lot stronger, just more intriguing backstories or just who they are. So I think those are the two things that they're really knocking out of the park. Now, as far as the films have gone, like I said, I think they did. Honestly, I'll say I think they did Man of Steel really well. I was glad to see Superman that wasn't just this like jock with an S on his chest and everything was perfect. I thought it really well.
Awesome. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
And so I thought they did really well with the Man of Steel. I was extremely disappointed with Suicide Squad. That was way overblown, and it was just awful.
So were we.
I thought the Batman v Superman, while it was great in some aspects, it story-wise was not that strong. And I think that's kind of what we saw with Justice League. It's just a lot of potential, but just squandered when it came to script writing.
All right, so I just want to lay this down for the sake of context. We all think, and I can tell you this, I speak for Ian here because we've talked about this. Oh, yeah. We all think that Man of Steel and Wonder Woman were really good. They were solid to great.
Yeah, those were very good movies.
All right, so what we're looking at is that they're failing miserably when it comes to grouped movies.
Yes, and that's definitely a good statement. I don't know how you fix that. I think it comes from scripting. Mostly, it's just they're not able to right now handle more than one character at one time, which is a shame because there's a lot of potential. I thought Justice League could have been amazing, but
right.
Well, and now that we've seen this whole cycle, and we've seen 5 movies, and I think that's about the same that we had. Well, no, we had 6. When it came to the first Avengers, we had 2 Iron Man movies, a Hulk movie, Thor movie, Captain America, and then Avengers. So they had 6, and now we've seen 5 from Warner Brothers for the DCEU, which is close enough, I think, especially considering 2 of those were Iron Man movies. And you can't help but to compare here. But as far as the movie count and getting from point A to point B, from where they started to their big group movie, I would definitely say that a lot of that movie real estate was wasted for DC, especially when it comes to Suicide Squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, of course, we are Monday morning quarterbacking the shit out of this. What's that?
I think they were trying too hard. They were trying too hard to be like the Avengers when they had such a good thing going with Man of Steel.
Right.
They just really kind of wasted it trying to compete with Avengers right away. You can't do that. Avengers, like you said, it was like 10 years in the making, and they were trying to make that happen in like 3 years. Yeah.
No, It's tough. Now I'm gonna say I agree with most of what you said when it comes to DC, when it comes to their villains, and I think you and I have even talked about this privately. DC villains are the best, in my opinion. They've definitely got the best material to draw from. Guys like Thanos are rare when it comes to Marvel in comparison to these things. DC's definitely got it. The Joker, I think, is one of the best fictional characters ever. And they've got them. They haven't used them, not much. And what they were going to use of the Joker, they cut most of it out from Suicide Squad. Now I say that, and then I have to say, that being said, they have barely even scratched the surface or utilized what they have for villains in these movies.
Yes, that's true.
Right.
Steppenwolf was horrible. So stuff that they could do besides. They just keep reusing the same villains, which is kind of a shame. I mean, I get it that they work, but there's a lot of DC villains that are super awesome.
Right. Oh, they're great. They're great. They're fleshed out a lot better. And I agree. There's something that DC does better than Marvel. We haven't seen it yet, but it's part of the reason why Warner Brothers is willing to break this whole. Just trying to think of the word. This whole franchise and start making additional movies that aren't connected to this ongoing universe, the shared universe. That's what I was looking for.
That was one thing that Suicide Squad did well, was that it helped introduce Harley Quinn and Deadshot.
So you should be seeing Harley Quinn and Joker though, and that's part of the problem.
It's what it should have been. Yes, it's what it should have been. But I think kind of branching out that villain tree a little bit.
Yeah, but we're not even sure if they'll ever get Will Smith to play Deadshot again.
Right.
That's
Right.
true, which is a shame because he did a good job.
But they've said there's going to be a Deadshot movie, but they've said that there's going to be a movie for everything now. So I don't even believe that. The only thing I believe is that there will be some kind of Batman movie. There will be a Man of Steel 2. There will be a Wonder Woman, and Aquaman's in the can. And that's all I'll take to heart, because they've said everything else is there or coming.
Yeah, as we've said before, part of you wonders, will Nolan's Dark Knight ultimately end up being sort of a general blueprint for this sort of break in separation of films, separation of universe, instead of trying to pull everything's back and together, of Avengers style, or if anything, keep things loose, instead of bringing the hero stories together, have perhaps a shared universe of villains, have things happening in those areas, and then try to connect separate stories to those. That's a possibility. But who knows, man? I mean, but the evidence is, like you said, that it's strong in the solo films, weaker on the rushed groupings, and I think the more we have the building up those solid foundations, because it still needs that, better off they are.
So, Isaac, I mean, what do you think? What do they need to do? What do they need? What should they fix here? Fix it all. We're going to send this over to Warner Brothers, and they're going to do what you say.
Oh, well, okay. So first we start off by firing everybody that's written a script besides Zack Snyder, and we got to bring back Christopher Nolan and keep them as consultants, because I think Christopher Nolan did one of the best trilogies of superhero films with the Dark Knight. And he definitely really helped nail that down. But at this point, he's been on the producer side and consulting, but they haven't. From what I've read, they haven't really taken to heart much of what he has put forth. I think you got to restart and just kind of stop trying to be Marvel and just be your own entity, because that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And I think start developing these characters so then eventually you can make another group film, but instead of rushing into that within 5 years. And I think personally, we need a new Batman. I don't. Ben Affleck's not doing it for me. I think with some of the stuff that's happened off the screen, and might just exit him. There was talk of Jake Gyllenhaal being the next Batman, or Leonardo DiCaprio, which I think those could be better actors that could bring a whole different side of Batman that we haven't seen. And but again, it's got to stop being rushed. We got to get some better screenwriting and maybe some new casting. But I thought they did phenomenal. Wonder Woman was fantastic. I think that's how you do a superhero film. It had a great story. The acting was great, and maybe start turning more projects over to that director. I don't know.
Cool.
Wow. I mean, you're just fire them all.
You gotta restart somewhere. The numbers don't lie.
Now, when you say restart, you don't mean restart the DCEU. You mean restart as far as your creative crew.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you went from a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes with Wonder Woman to dropping down to, I think it ended up being like a 35 with Justice League. You can't do that. That just kind of shows.
Yeah, but I don't know, and I don't know. You may know this more than I do. How much of a hand did Zack Snyder have to do with the script for Justice League? I mean, we all know that Joss Whedon had to come in and help wrap up the movie, but
Right.
And there are certainly things when you see that movie that you can tell Joss Whedon had a hand in that. That was probably him, but in large, people say that was Zack Snyder's film.
I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny much. I think it was about halfway through is when he had the family crisis, and that's when he pulled out. And I do think a project suffers when someone halfway through that and set made the idea pulls out, So I think maybe it would have been a completely different film had Snyder been able to stick with it through the whole thing. But I mean, you had him coming from, he did a couple Marvel films, and just had that different mindset, and I think that just kind of screwed up what Justice League could have been.
Yes, he did. Yeah, all right. So you're saying, hey, creatively, let's let's start with a brand new crew here, minus Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder should continue to be the captain of the ship, and let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should stick with him simply because he kind of helped start it with Man of Steel, and he has this ultimate vision. I agree with most of what he's done so far, and so I think that's why they should stick with him as the main guy. And then maybe pull in some stuff from Christopher Nolan. But I think bringing in Whedon was not a smart idea, just because Whedon, doing with the Avengers and whatnot, he has a completely different outlook on it because he already has characters developed, while DCU hasn't even done that so far. They still need to do more developing before they can do a group film like Marvel. So,
right.
All right, there it is. Ian, do you want to go next, or do you want me to go next?
I'll go ahead and I'll take a quick swipe.
All right, because I have notes, so
yeah, I know you do. You're ready to rock. The only real thing I'm adding to that is with DC and where they stand universe-wise. I think one thing that's tricky here to do, as you're setting up individual characters, that can all be done. But when you try to expand and look at a larger universe or what those characters mean to that, DC is so often meddled with the multiple Earths or the different types of timelines. We have the Crisis and then the Anti-Monitor and things like that to condense everything. Every now and then that brings things back into continuity. But that's one thing I'm curious about with all this, or how that's going to be handled. Do we simply leave out Earth 2, Earth 3, or just borrow from some of the content like New 52, leave the twisted Superboy Prime stuff out, all of that, all the external stuff, and then sometimes the mixed origins. Power Girl is an example of a character that's been her origins been rewritten so many times. From being Altean to Kryptonian to magic based and everything else. One thing I think they seriously have good potential to do here is really pick that solid direction and run with it and go. Instead of mixing too many alternate dimensions and everything else. I think that'd be difficult to do anyway without having a full platform established of your whole character canon, your whole villain canon. But that's one thing I hope they avoid. That always made me a little cross-eyed about reading through DC, and I always like when I just had one or two main continuities to follow. So
I think verbally they kind of said that the only alternate universes they have is the TV shows versus the films. So
right.
Yeah, but they're going to add more.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Which is stupid. And the boat has sailed for them connecting the show to the DCEU, which is a shame ultimately, because that was one area where they could have done a lot better than what Marvel's doing. I get some of the decisions, but ultimately I think it was the wrong one to make. But that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
All right. Is it my turn? Do I get to go?
Hit it.
It's all you. It's all you.
Okay. All right. So, earlier, I mean, here's what we know they're going to do and what they have done. Aquaman is done. It's being wrapped up as in post-production. That will be coming out Christmas of next year, but they'll be able to move that out. But let's assume they can't put that out any earlier than Christmas 2019 or 2018. All right, so we know there's going to be a Man of Steel 2. We know there's going to be a Wonder Woman 2. We're actually not sure about Justice League at this point.
Right.
We're really not. So I think we can assume there's going to be a Flash. They keep talking about Flash. Although, whether they get this 10th director and they can actually keep him on there, that's another thing entirely. And there will be a Batman movie, at least a movie. We know these things. The first thing they need to do is they need to start production on Man of Steel 2, in my opinion. That needs to come out. That can come out soon enough. If you want to, in my opinion, that's where they need to start next. I mean, they just killed this guy. They just brought him back. He's one of two of what people generally are accepting of this franchise. you need to put out Man of Steel 2, and you need to have him fight Lex Luthor, and you need to put him in a big mech suit, and for all the films coming up, they need to start highlighting, now that we've been introduced to the Justice League, they need to start introducing what we saw in the post-credit scenes. They need to start introducing the Legion of Doom.
Yep.
And that's going to be the villains for these movies coming out. Now, I like
that.
I like Matt Reeves. He's a good director. Get him off the Batman movie, and I'm going to have to disagree with Isaac. Put Ben Affleck back in charge. Now, despite our personal likes over this or not, Ben Affleck is proving outside of things in this movie universe. Generally, he's accepted, and a lot of people. There was a poll that was done saying that he is the most liked Batman at this point. Now,
right?
Really, that is interesting.
There's the Batman trilogy, the Nolan trilogy, but that stands on its own, and
yeah, that makes sense.
That's its own thing. That is in a world where superpowers don't exist, and it's just a whole different thing. But they did a poll asking, which Batman do you like the most, and they laid them all out, and Ben Affleck's came out actually quite handily in front. What, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he's the best. I think he's the best depiction on screen. But like I said, you have to. The Nolan trilogy is just so much different. You almost can't compare them. So it's kind of hard to say that. Put him in charge. Matt Reeves is a good director. Christopher Nolan is a good director, but Ben Affleck's an award-winning director and an award-winning writer, and I do think that he's portraying the role the best.
Mm-hmm.
There's been issues, one reason or another, with Batman. Is he playing a good enough Bruce Wayne? Is he playing a good enough Batman? And I know, Isaac, you just don't agree, and we haven't had a chance to really elaborate on that too much, other than you said that Affleck is lacking in depth. And there's definitely something to be said for
that is not necessarily an Affleck problem. It could be just a writer problem.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, a lot of his characters do have a lot of the same mannerisms. You see the same thing. Oh, jeez, I can't remember his name right now. The guy from The Matrix. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Very similar. You have a lot of the same mannerisms and facial expressions. But I think I can do it. I want brother to do whatever they need to do to keep him in that spot. And just make him the happiest guy in the world. Have him do his Batman movie. And that's where... I'm not the biggest on DC villains. The guy that we saw in the after credit scenes with Lex Luthor, what was his name?
Shoot. The actor's name,
not
right?
Not Deadshot, the other guy.
The bad guy. The bad guy. I was kidding.
You know who I'm talking about. I don't think Isaac knows who I'm talking about. You saw the after credit scene, right? When they're on the boat?
Yeah. And I was literally, my mind was honestly on Deadshot, but I know I got an image in my head you're referring to.
Isaac, who is that?
I can't remember.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyways, obviously Lex Luthor wants him to be in the Legion of Doom, so you make him the villain of Batman 4, which is where he was originally going to be. He was going to be the villain in the Batman movie. Now, I'm already hearing things about Wonder Woman 2. It's going to take place in the 80s. It's going to be another love story.
Deathstroke, by the way.
Deathstroke, thank you.
Oh, yes. Dang it. I knew that.
I worry about Wonder Woman the most because part of the reason, in my opinion, part of the reason why Wonder Woman did so well was because Man of Steel was so far at that point the best outing that they've had for the DCEU and the only other single, focused character movie. And people wanted to see if they could do that just as well, which they did. And there's other reasons why that movie was great. But I think
it was also very different than any in tone and story
definitely
than any other.
I think if you take the DCEU away from Wonder Woman, the next movie doesn't do nearly as well. I say it does no more than 75% revenue. Mm-hmm. I really don't think it'll do as well, and I could be wrong on that.
Right.
but I obviously that's where I'm leaning towards, and I don't like the idea of them doing another period piece. I don't know. I'm worried. In another love story, I guess, I'm just not I'm not where I am with Marvel, where I should be with DCEU as far as my faith in them to be able to pull these things off. If Marvel said that they were going to do a movie, based in like a 1940s circus show, I would be like, that sounds ridiculous, but you know what? It's Marvel, and they've shown me enough to where I will get excited about the fact that it's a different idea than the world. You understand what I'm saying? I just don't have the faith in the DCEU crew yet to pull off something like that again.
Yeah, it's like when Marvel did Ant-Man. Like, even when no one knew what it was, people still went out and saw it because it was a Marvel movie.
Right, and they on the other side of that, they were much better off because their faith was rewarded with a fun movie, in which Ant-Man's one of my favorite movies out of the MCU. I'm just not there, but I could be there. Anyways, Wonder Woman comes next. Wonder Woman's the third one to come out, and I really would like them to continue to establish these Legion of Doom villains, which I guess is a period piece they could pull off, but then you're talking almost 40 years later. I'm not quite sure how they bridge that gap.
Yeah.
But they could bridge that gap. And then you have Aquaman, and Aquaman's going to come out, and at first I was just going to watch it because I want it to beat the Bumblebee movie, because fuck that Bumblebee movie. But actually I'm interested in seeing this now, and I do know that there's going to be typical villains that have been a part of the Legion of Doom in that. So I got nothing to say on it, really. Now, finally, I know I got a lot here. Finally, I think in the Batman movie they need to introduce a new Robin. And I think for the Flash movie, you need to throw Cyborg in there, and you need to trash the Cyborg movie because they just didn't give us enough in Justice League to give us a crap about that character. And then you need to put Robin in that movie and make some appearances. Then you've almost got a Teen Titan things going, and then you have them take on some awesome supervillain.
Now, are we talking Robin or potential Red Hood?
I'm not gonna specify because I don't know enough about all the differences. I mean, I know who Red Hood is, and I know who Nightwing is, and all of that. But I think they could introduce a new character like that, and then you're fleshing out the Justice League as a whole. But at the same time, Flash is, he's pushing 20. Maybe 20 years old, and we know Cyborg. He's a teenager, or maybe around the same age. I think he was 18. Didn't he actually get hurt in an accident going to a football game or something like that?
Right.
Yeah. So he's young too. You throw Robin in there. Have a little fun with them. They're already making the Flash the comic relief, and you get the three of them pouncing around and beating up on some villain.
So at this rate, I kind of vote for Chris to take over. He's the one I talk acquiring the creative board that we put Chris in place.
This is just ideas. I gave it some thought. One thing that I don't hold on back, because Zack Snyder I've said this to both of you in the past. No one frames a shot like that guy, but I do think it is time for him to step away. That being said, he needs to take the brass from Warner Brothers with him, and they need to leave these damn movies alone. Get somebody in charge, put him in charge, leave him alone,
and let him do his thing.
And maybe in that capacity, that can be Zack Snyder. I don't think Zack Snyder should be making the films anymore, but maybe he does take that kind of creative control. Maybe he is the Kevin Feige for the DCEU, but somebody needs to be. And the studio needs to just back off and let them do their thing.
Cool.
And that's the number one thing that, honestly, that I think needs to happen more than anything, is that Warner, because they tried that. And what is it, right after Batman v Superman, some guy who used to work for the DC Comics, like, no, that's the guy in charge. That guy hasn't been in charge of shit. That's the whole thing, is that this DCEU has been ping-ponged around by top brass over at Warner Brothers is like, well, you should do this. What about this? What about this? You know, I'm surprised we don't have a sidekick talking dog yet.
Oh, Super Dog?
Or Wonder Dog, or whatever they are.
Whatever. Yeah, that was the thing.
I'm just surprised. Everybody loves dogs. Don't you see those videos on YouTube? Everybody loves them. Put a dog in there. Yeah. But like I said, maybe that is Zack Snyder. I don't know. I don't quite agree with how dark these movies were. I mean, Justice League, as messed up as it was as far as its storytelling, there were some great lighter moments. The best part of that movie, walking away from it a couple weeks ago now, the best part of that movie was the after credits scene with Superman.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part. What was your favorite part, Isaac?
You know, I was just being so let down. I didn't really have a favorite. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I really liked the introduction of Aquaman. Honestly, I thought that was cool.
That was my biggest surprise. I thought I was going to hate him. Now, if you ever go back to other shows, I'm ripping him apart before this movie. I'm having a lot of fun making fun of Aquaman, but that was my biggest surprise. I actually ended up not... Actually, I'm fine with what they did with him now. At first, I was hating it, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah! My man!
That was just a good way to introduce a character. Like, there's this, like, crazy-ass fisherman, and then...
He was definitely... I think Aquaman's story was definitely the least chopped up.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good... I liked his...
Cool.
I still think that at the end they should have gone full nerd. They should have gone the blonde hair, the hair. It should have been shiny orange and green suit, just the whole thing. Go full nerd, but that's all right. What they did is fine.
Works,
in my opinion.
Cool.
Okay, and as far as that, when I just laid out like 4 or 5 movies, I don't know what you do after that, I guess. But that's what I start focusing on the single characters. The main reason I don't think you should ditch this Batman, outside of the fact that I really like Ben Affleck as this Batman, is that character and what he brought with Batman v Superman really just expanded this whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much depth there with this Batman.
Yeah.
And there's so much to play with. I mean, some of the coolest lines, like, it's not like Batman, dealing with penguins that explode. It's like, I want to see that movie.
Where were the penguins that exploded?
Yeah. Show me the penguin movie. They keep delving into this, though. It's like, so I'm enjoying the shit out of that. I really am. That being said, Jake Gyllenhaal is one of the best actors on the planet. So if they were to replace him, I suppose use him. And he is as crazy as Christian Bale when it comes to morphing his body for roles. So, if Jake Gyllenhaal was to take that role, I'm sure he'd be as big as Affleck by the time he has to shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And like I don't know, I really appreciated him in Nightcrawler, and he's just done a couple other ones that he just can play a really conflicted character very, very well, and that's why he has my vote.
But yeah, I get it. I mean, it was actually after Nightcrawler, after I'd seen Nightcrawler, where I'm like, all right, this guy has got because he just, I mean, that was stretching. That was acting right there in Nightcrawler, because I'd seen enough of his other stuff.
I mean, yeah, he wasn't just that actor that like slept with Heath Ledger. He was like a real actor. I don't know.
I have no idea what that reference came from, but that was funny.
It's Brokeback Mountain or whatever.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I never saw that movie. I heard what it was about. I had no interest.
Never seen it either, but I just had to get the joke in.
I completely forgot that that he was in there with that. Oh. Brokeback Mountain, there it is. I don't think we're gonna have a perfect way to end that segment.
I don't think we can. I don't think we can. After that,
went all the way around to Brokeback Mountain,
and after that, you need a dose of an info minute. All right.
Where's this info minute? Someone say this.
Yeah, we didn't even tell you about the info minute. So, Ian does an info minute.
Yeah, each week it's just one nice quick minute sting. It could be something ridiculous, normally is ridiculous, something actually amazing or record setting, but some type of general cool, weird, funny, or just overall neat piece of news that are found during the week and want to talk about here. I guess the banner title for mine here is Don't Try This at Home. If you've seen flight suits, I assume you have, the crazy jumpers that go off of maddening heights to glide, pretty much one of the closest things you can have to unaided flight.
These are awesome.
Oh yeah, they are. There was a wingsuit duo. They called themselves the Soul Jumpers. This was French thrill seekers Fred Fugan, 38, and Vince Reffit at 33. They jumped off of a 13,000-foot peak in Switzerland. And each of them, both of them, managed to land into a 5-foot wide door on a flying plane that was moving at 85 miles an hour, at about 2 miles altitude.
What? Tell me you're going to link a video to this.
Yes, I will.
All right.
And let me give that to you while I'm actually talking here. That'll make a little more sense. Hold up.
That's crazy.
But we keep seeing these jumps go larger heights, faster speeds. That's the stuff I see all the time. But stopping on a dime like that and something like that moving in the air, and I did think that was possible. But people keep surprising me. Anyway, there's the video. Go along with, talk about it.
Oh my god. Loading.
A little bit more about this. This mission was done with about... they trained for months on this. There were about 100 test runs. Only 20 of them were actually fully successful. It's crazy. This is a really good way to get yourself killed really fast.
Right.
The technical challenge of it, the mental challenge, I think of aligning yourself to do this is just a spectacular feat. This was sponsored by Red Bull. They sponsored a number of jumps and some other really crazy feats before, but man.
That's why I'm laughing. It's like Red Bull, it's like anything crazy. It's like, hey, it's sponsored by Red Bull.
It gives you wings.
That's right, and they need them. Wearing them.
This came out a little just earlier this week. The video itself got released came out on Tuesday from Red Bull. The one issue I know during the training for this, one of the flyers at Refit, he said he had an injury. He injured his ribs, but he managed to get in the door, and then he just rocketed right back out the other end and had to use his parachute. So, this is crazy, but probably one of the coolest stunts I've seen in a long time. It's amazing.
No, that's pretty cool how they just kind of plop in there at the end. It's like, bloop.
And it makes it look like no big deal. Like, you just don't think about the heights that are being done with this, but no, it's done deal.
What do you think of that, Ian? Or Isaac? Ian just told me all about what he thinks of it.
I kind of want to try it. I'm not going
to try it. I could never do that, obviously.
Just one time, just for kicks and giggles.
Well, gliding like that I've always wanted to try, though. That and jumping out of a plane I have not done either. I don't know if I even meet the requirements to be able to jump out of a plane. I'm such a big guy. They probably have to have like 2 people connected. I don't know. But gliding like that just looks like so much fun, but I bet you I'd just barf 10 seconds into it.
Yeah, probably. Oh, man. Yeah. Once you're up there and doing your thing, there's probably no feeling like it. I couldn't even imagine. But this is something that's not on my bucket list. I'm not touching that with the 10-foot pole. But
have either of you ever jumped out of a plane?
I've not. I've never gone skydiving. I've never done bungee jumping or anything like that.
I haven't, but I would probably do. I'd probably do bungee jumping. I wouldn't do jumping out of a plane. I don't think. I would do. I don't know. Bungee jumping just sounds more appealing to me.
All right. I think that's it. So I think before we wrap it up, though, Isaac, you had a couple things you wanted to plug.
Yeah.
Yes, I would absolutely love to plug From the Furnace. I directed a film. I guess now it's been summer of 2016, and we were hoping to have the release spring of 2018. So definitely check us out. We have some trailers on there. We have some other goodies on there. You should check it out. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, guys. It's been entertaining. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, we went a little longer than I was hoping to, but we always do.
Yeah.
Now, did you drop a website for that, or any social media?
I don't. How do you do that?
Well, just say it. Just say it. We'll put it in there.
FromTheFurnace.com is the only page that you'll need because everything else is connected to that page.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Well, we loved having you here. Hey. And we even got a free DC aficionado out of it. I love it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Isaac, and joining us. We had 3 heavy-handed topics. Normally run somewhere around half a dozen to 8 or 9 topics, and we don't normally spend so much time on even one of them like we did tonight. But we had 3 pretty big ones tonight. So. Yeah.
The challenge was great, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Good stuff. Been fun. Everybody have a safe weekend. Enjoy the rest of it, if that's when you're watching it right now. Otherwise...
Or
whenever. Your Mondays, or your Tuesdays, or your Wednesdays. The whole deal. Yeah.
Check us out Tuesday mornings. For no at all.
Is something supposed to be different then? I don't know. Okay.
But I guess you're not going to know unless you listen on Tuesday morning. Maybe it is.
Oh my gosh.
Don't even get me started on the Thursdays after 1 a.m. Don't even...
Where's the segue out?
There is no way out.
There is no way out.
You're stuck.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Waka, that's it, everybody. There's your segue.
All right, peace.
All right, see you later.
Hey people, thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, if there's anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but if great, you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksawmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, pick up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later. Take care.